Alright y'all, welcome back to the channel and to some more rifle testing, and we've got something a little bit different today and a first for the channel. We're going to be doing some rimfire 22 testing stuff, and to start out with, we're going with my main 22 setup. When I grab a 22, this is what I grab. I know the limitations of it. It's not a sniper setup or not a precision setup whatsoever, but we're still going to test it and see how it does. So first up, the load that we're going to be shooting are some of these guys, the Blazer 22 long rifle rounds. These are made by CCI. I don't know if you'll be able to see it on the top corner of the box there, but they are a 40 grain lead round nose bullet. There's no velocity posted on the box. If I can find it online, I'll throw it up on the screen here what they are supposed to be, because I do have the chronograph, so we will be able to see what they are moving out of my setup and potentially how close they get to a velocity if I can find one that's posted out there online somewhere. But as for what setup we're going to be using, I've got this old school rifle here. This is a very, very early 80s, 1980, 81, something like that. Marlin Glenfield Model 25. Like I said before, this is no precision rig or long range rig or anything like that, but this has been probably one of the most reliable go and grab it if you need to deal with a raccoon or a squirrel or anything like that, foxes, anything of that nature. This has done it. I can't tell you the amount of groundhogs this thing has taken just in the past 5 years alone since we've moved out here to this property. Up on top is an old school Bushnell sharpshooter. It's a 3-9 by 32 scope. It's not anything fancy, and it doesn't really impress you when you look through it too much, but it gets the job done for what I need it to do. So like I said, I know that that's not a precision rig. I know that that gun and those rounds are absolutely capable of taking pretty much anything you want to at 50 yards and in. But I do know from a little bit of testing I've done with it before that this is not a 100-yard setup. Now, I know of plenty of other occasions where those Blazers are incredibly accurate out to 100 yards and beyond even, but we're just working with the limitations of this particular rifle. So for today, normally I shoot at 100 yards, but since I know what that rifle is capable of, we're going to shoot it at 50 yards. And because we're only going to keep it at 50 yards, normally I shoot 3 groups, we're going to shoot 5 groups today. 3 shots each down there at 50 yards on the target. So let's go over here and get set up on the bench. I'm going to move you guys down to the target and we'll start shooting groups and see how this stuff does. Alright, so we shot our groups and got all of our results, but as far as our chronograph numbers goes here, let's take a look and see what we got. For a high, we got 1294. For a low, we got 1213. And for an average, we got 1241. So 1241 feet per second on average from this gun. Once again, I'll throw the number on screen here real quick to see how close it is to the box velocity, but they seem about average for most 22 rounds like this. Nothing too special, I don't believe. So let's go up to the bench and take a look and measure our groups and see how we did on those. Alright y'all, so here are our groups. So I've got my calipers out here. We'll start measuring and see what kind of groups we got. We got 1 or 2 that aren't looking so amazing, but we got a couple others that are definitely much better compared to the others. So let's measure our first group here and see what we got. So our first group measured out at 0.65 inch group here. Definitely not bad. It's definitely not a precision rig by any means, but we'll get the job done. We had our top 2 here almost touching, but our bottom one is that little bit farther out, which opens that group up. So let's measure our second group over here and see what we got. Our second group in the top right measures at a 0.82 inch group, so a little bit more open, but we did have these two pretty much touching but once again we had one that was a little bit farther open. So not bad overall. Will absolutely do the job on anything small game related. So let's measure our third group and see what we got. So our third group measured out to be a 1.74 inch group here. So definitely much more open than the other two for sure. Once again, we had these two that were pretty close, not touching, but pretty close. But we had that one up here at the top, just opened up a little bit, or else that group would have been a pretty decent one again. So let's measure our fourth group and see what we got out of that one. So our fourth group measured out at a 1.81 inch group, which is still not amazing, but that's because yet again we had two that were pretty much touching and that one up at the top that just hurt our group numbers for whatever reason. And I should mention, I did let the barrel cool down for about 5 minutes between groups. So for 22, that should be plenty enough for heat control. So I think this is just the gun and the ammunition combo. But let's measure our fifth and final group in the middle there and see what we got out of that one. So our fifth group in the middle, we got a 0.60 inch group here. Definitely much better, and I believe that makes it the best group of the day here. Still not anything precision-wise, so that's super amazing. It's definitely not a sniper by any means or anything like that. But like I said, 50 yards for what I use it for, that'll do the job. But yet again, we still had these two that were almost touching and one that opened up just a little bit. So it's the same if you look at all 5 groups here. You have 2 that are very close and one that's open just a little bit for whatever reason. But either way, that's about what I expected to see out of this at 50 yards. But overall, what did you guys think about it? It's definitely an old school rig that doesn't offer a whole lot of precision, especially compared to today's modern rifles and stuff. And I know that Blazer ammunition is capable of much better accuracy, but that's through a much more modern setup than that one. Plus, that gun was like the bargain entry level, bottom of the barrel 22 type of deal when it came out. There is nothing special or fancy about that gun. So it's pretty much what you would expect for your average little grab it out of the cabinet 22 that's been sitting there forever. It'll absolutely do the job, but it's not a long range rig whatsoever. But if you want to see me take it out to 100 yards, I will. I already know that it will open up to probably 3 or 4 inch groups out at 100. For whatever reason, the jump between 50 and 100 yards for this rifle is not anything amazing. But on that note, we've got some rain moving in quick here. So I'm going to try to knock some other stuff out. So stick around because we've got plenty more coming, rifles and shotgun related. I'm going to get back to it. And I'll see y'all in the next one.